The next step in the process is a really critical one. It's something that people get wrong a lot, and that is how to prepare your Excel for upload. Now, obviously, I don't want to work with a huge list for a test, but you can see here we've got sort of some basics. We've got a list that has a first name, last name, some email addresses, some phone numbers. We've got a property address, we've got a mailing address, and we've got some extra fields here, which are related to the fields we have in our cold calling app. Right. And of course, if you have more fields that you want to track and show to the agent on a call, you can add more columns. That's entirely up to yourself. But this is certainly a good example of a list. Now, there's a few things we're going to do here. Usually we get a list which just has a first name and last name. So we've added these 4 columns. We've added a column for full name, a column for call list, a column for lead status, and a campaign search ID column. Now, there's a couple good Excel tips here. First of all, when you're doing a full name, if you want to concatenate 2 Excel columns to get a full name, you simply do the formula equals the first name column, the ampersand, space, double quote, space, double quote, space, ampersand, space, and then the second column. What that will do is it'll bring the 2 of those fields, E2 and F2, together with a space in the middle. So that means we suddenly get Joey space A, which is first name space last name. And of course, I've simply dragged this formula down to ensure that the same formula carries out as a basic of an Excel guide. The second thing is the call list. You remember from our cold calling app that we have this notion of the call list. So I've added a few of these in here. We've got call list AAA and call list B. Again, this would be a way of breaking up that Excel so that we can create different smart dialer campaigns and have them all working at the same time. So if you had 20,000, you could put in, 500 for call list A, 500 for call list B, or 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, however you want to break it up. The next status is we've put in the lead status just to make it easier on our automations. So I want this to populate with waiting, and I want the creation date to populate with the date. So I've got lead status and I'm going to add one for the date. So for lead status, I've got waiting here. Now, good helpful tip is if you want the same value to be filled in, whether it's a calculation or one of these sort of concatenations or not, you simply, instead of dragging, because you don't want to drag for 40,000 lines, you simply double click on that little green, see how it's changed the cursor? And that will go for as long as the next column has. So it's filled in to the end of this column. So that's a really great tip if you want to go for like 30,000 lines. You can just double click and it'll go all 30,000 lines with the same value, which is great. Now, the same thing I'm going to do for the date. I'm going to just put in the date uploaded or created today. It's US. I'll do it in US format. And I'm just going to copy it here. And then I will, again, double click, and that's the same date. And then finally, we've got the campaign search ID. Now, if you recall, in our campaigns app, we did mention that it was critical that you had a ID field to search with. And this is the ID field. It starts with a 162, ends with a 619. 162, 619, so the same one. And I, again, am just going to double click, and that same value gets the whole for all the fields. So this is a really great way of preparing the Excel. It means we've got the search ID, so we can link each row to the correct campaign. We're pre-filling some values here. We're selecting call lists. We've made a full name. And more critically, you can see how we've got our phone numbers identified as columns. So sometimes this will take you a bit of work on your lists, because I see this sometimes where it's got the phone type as column A and phone number as column B, and then phone type is column the next one as well, etc. That's not going to work very well. You're going to want it in this type of format. And you can see we've got some addresses here, and we've got some data to fill in. So this is all good, and it's now ready to go.